Hey everybody, it's Sandy again, and I'm coming at you with a video tonight about how I prep my canvases to work on them. I'm getting lots of questions on what I do to prep, and also lots and lots of questions on how I measure my paints and my Floetrol and my oil to kind of get the best consistency that works well for me. So I want to kind of go over all of that with you tonight. So one of the first things I do, this is an unprepped canvas here. One of the first things I do is I put push pins in the back, just 4 push pins. I've found that it's easier for me to do this than trying to set them on top of cups. I can still pick up, I still have room for paint to flow over. It just seems to be a lot easier for me. So I, at the dollar store, bought a pack of 100 of these clear push pins. When I'm done with a piece, once it's sealed and everything, I take these pins out and I reuse them, which these are reused from another set. So anyway, so that's the first thing I do. Again, this is unprepped. When I bought this canvas from the store, it says that it's already gessoed. I personally gesso everything that I work on. So before I get to that point, what you'll notice is that this canvas, there's a little bit of a give here. I don't know if you can really tell that, but there's a bit of a give to the canvas. It's not quite as stretched as I would like it. I actually learned this tip from a fellow YouTuber, Karen Goodrich. She's amazing. I learned a lot from her. So the first thing I want to do is actually spray the back of my canvas with just water. This is just an empty spray bottle here that I got from the dollar store. I've just got some plain tap water in here. So I'm going to take my canvas. I'm just going to spray the back of this. It does not have to be soaking, but I do want it to be wet. And then now I'm going to leave this canvas. I'm going to set this down over here. I'm going to leave it to dry. And what happens is after I've sprayed the canvas, it's quite a bit more stretched and more firm on top. And when you're using the acrylics, and with the amount of acrylic that we're putting on here, you really need it to be stretched. Otherwise your canvas can sag and all your paint will just stay in the middle and it won't dry right. And you can deal with things like cracking and things like that. So this is a canvas that I've already put the push pins in. I had sprayed this earlier tonight on the back and it was totally dry on the back. So then I went ahead and gessoed it. I actually am about to work on a piece tonight for a friend. This is going to be an example piece before her bigger commissioned piece. So what I did was I took my white acrylic gesso, which I got at Hobby Lobby, used my 40% off coupon and got it cheaper because I was just starting out. So I got this, and then I used two of these colors that are going to go in her painting. I used about a drop from each, just a little bit of gesso in this 1 ounce measuring cup, and I still have some left over. And I went ahead and gessoed this. So this is almost totally dry. I'm going to let it finish drying before I actually paint on it. But these are some of the steps that I take to prepare. One of the other things I do when I'm preparing a piece, especially these that are commissioned, where I'm getting these requests for commissioned pieces, if I get a general idea of what someone's looking for, like this friend of mine was looking for forest colors and neutral colors, I will put together a color sample that I will then send to them just to get an idea of if these are some of the colors that they're thinking of. And then I always just put a date so I kind of know what I was working on and if I do revisions, that type of thing. So these are some of the colors that are going to go in this painting for my friend. And then I made myself a little sample of the gesso colors so that when I go to remix it, I've got an idea of what I'm looking for. So now moving on, measuring out my paint. So this is going to be one of the colors in this sample painting that I'm going to do. It's a Christmas green. It's a really bright green here. When I think of green, this is kind of the color of green I'm thinking of. I personally use Flood Floetrol as my pouring medium. And I use a ratio of 2 to 3 parts flowing medium to 1 part paint. I know some people will weigh their paints. I don't have a kitchen scale, and I don't feel like it's something else I need to go out and purchase. I'm trying to do this as economically as possible. So I'm going to actually just measure. And I know I'm only going to need about 1/8 to 1/4 of an ounce in total of this color. So I'm going to pour out my pouring medium and hopefully not make a giant mess. So I'm going to end up using another little medicine cup here. And we'll just use this for another color. Okay, so I've got about 1/8 of an ounce of my pouring medium in here. Shake up my paint color. And I only want about 1/4 the amount of paint as I did pouring medium. The next thing I do, this is just a little 3-ounce cup, plastic cup, with a straw that I cut off. And I use this as my dropper. I didn't have to buy the straw, and it was a cup that I had already had, so I'm just going to put in about 1 to 2 drops of water. And then I also reuse all of my craft sticks. These are the sticks I use as my stir sticks here. And I'm just going to stir this until it gets to the consistency that I want. And I scrape down the sides, just like as if you're mixing anything else. If you're a baker, you know how important scraping down the sides is. Personally, there's kind of a science to this. Some people don't really measure. I'm learning that I get the best results by measuring. So I want my paint to be about this consistency. And if it's too thick, which this one may actually be a little too thick, I can just easily add another little drop of water. So I don't know if you can kind of see this consistency, but this is really kind of where I personally like my paints that are going to go in my dirty cup. The last thing I do is I will then add 1 drop of this treadmill belt lubricant. It's 100% silicone and it's in oil form. And you'll notice it's got this little dropper top. People say it's easy to control. For me, it's still a little difficult to control the amount, but I do better at it than if it were in any other form, if it didn't have a dropper. So I'm going to put in 1 drop. And then I'm going to do 1 full stir for that drop. And then I'm going to leave this alone. So now this color is set. I'm going to repeat this process for my other colors, and then I'll begin pouring. This is the process that I use. I hope that you have found this information valuable. If you do, like, comment, share if you prefer. If you've got questions, always let me know. I'm happy to answer them in my next videos. I'll be doing my next video on the big pour of this version once I get the okay from my customer on what colors she ultimately likes and if she likes this sample. Thanks, and have a great night.